I really like speaking with like hungry founders. They want to go solve a problem. They've got maybe some seed cash. They've got a small team that are like super engaged and want to go build cool things. Those are my favorite people ever to work with. And Sagetap has those in abundance. And often I find that in learning about startups that are trying to solve a particular problem, I'm about to have that problem. I'm Aaron. I'm the CIO at Vorboss. Vorboss is a B2B fiber internet connectivity provider based in London in the United Kingdom. We also offer IT managed services and cybersecurity services. I look after all technical decisions other than those that relate to our operational network. So I look after our software engineering function, I look after our IT function, and any of the other little random technical bits that pop up.
In all of your work, do you wish that the industry were talking about something more than it is?
The industry is moving so fast at the moment, and by the industry in this case, I actually mean sort of like a software and tooling industry rather than a telecommunications industry. Things that we weren't talking about weeks or months ago, we are talking about now. And my favorite thing that is popping up is shadow AI. So we have spoken a lot about shadow IT over the years in technical groups, where someone in the business who is not part of a technical team is bottlenecked. And so rather than wait for that technical team to have availability for them, they'll just go solve the problem themselves using their corp code. Shadow AI is actually more interesting to me because Shadow AI pops up in the tools that you have already sanctioned and that you have already approved. So, for example, Copilot is popping up in Word in our Microsoft suite of tooling, or other popular SaaS products like Airtable or Monday or Notion. They all have their own AI, their something AI offering. And an employee could have access to that in a sanctioned approved tool, but they could be then sending personal data into that, and you could leak information to one of their underlying models, whether that's AWS Bedrock or one of the OpenAI products. Where that really interests me actually is for a business that hasn't approved, say, OpenAI in their business for whatever reason, whether that's data sovereignty, whether that's just security and compliance or whatever. But one of your vendors has and is using OpenAI as the model underneath their AI feature set in their product. Suddenly, you're using OpenAI, and your team could be sending data to that. We're starting to talk about that a lot more, but I don't think we've had a big breach from it yet. We haven't had case law of like, here's what goes wrong, and then we will start talking about it.
So where does that leave vendors? Are there major opportunities for them?
Oh, absolutely. We're in the Wild West right now for AI. It's like massively changing our technical industry. That's not exactly a hot take. Everyone's talking about it at every possible opportunity. We also are getting indications that SaaS is changing. If you look at even just from the pricing perspective, SaaS product A that has existed for many years is charging $20 per user per month. And we previously were happy paying that. But now also the alternative is you can get access to every piece of knowledge that has ever existed in the universe for $20 a month. So even from just like the pricing perspective, like SaaS is changing. Separately, it's now a lot easier to go build competing SaaS apps. And businesses are starting to think about, well, do I go and buy something, or do I just go have the robot build it for me? So the world is changing significantly in that space, particularly for businesses that are now using non-technical teams to build products in these agentic tools. They aren't aware of the security compliance, the risks that come with building, shipping, and maintaining software. So I think there are opportunities for vendors in providing guardrails as a service.
Before Sagetap, how did you use to identify the right vendors to evaluate and the right vendors for Vorboss?
You know what? I hadn't realized how much being on the SageTap platform has changed the way that I do this until only recently. Previously, I would be using word of mouth, whether that's on forums, whether that's on literally searching Google for how my peers have solved a problem. I often ended up on Reddit, Product Hunt, ChatGPT, and speaking with peers, whether that's at conferences, whether that's at talks, whether that's on LinkedIn. I tried to steer away from cold outreach. In reality, I did lose good pitches in those because there's just so much of it. There's so many of them. And for every one good vendor, there are five that just happen to have a better sales process, but a worse product.
You've been on Sagetap for a couple years now. Tell me about
Mhm.
your journey with it.
I thought it was a really interesting angle. The worst case scenario is you are providing completely anonymous feedback to a vendor on their pitch. So they get huge value out of it either way. Best case scenario is you actually find the diamond in the rough, right? I really like working with startups. I really like speaking with hungry founders. They want to go solve a problem. They've got maybe some seed cash. They've got a small team that are like super engaged and want to go build cool things. Those are my favorite people ever to work with. And Sagetap has those in abundance. I had a lot of early success on Sagetap, just learning about the startups that are on the platform. And often I find that in learning about startups that are trying to solve a particular problem, I'm about to have that problem. They might just be a little bit further ahead than me in even experiencing that. Sagetap has definitely made the the vendor search process a lot easier. Even in the ones that don't hit, the the amount that I learn from what is out in the market is always beneficial to me.
I know you have had success with the platform officially.
Yep.
Can you tell me
hmm
about your relationship with Thoras?
It was fantastic. Like really from the beginning, the pitch felt organic. I was sort of ready to say, okay, but then what happens with our PII or what happens with financials? And they were just on it every single time. Thoras helps us optimize the workloads that are running on our Kubernetes clusters in our public cloud provider. Ultimately, that saves us a fair amount of cash on our AWS spend. But the thing that excites me about Thoras is that they are all engineers and they really know their stuff. They are not just coming at it from a FinOps perspective. They're coming at it from a we need to guarantee resilience and reliability of the workloads that are running in your Kubernetes cluster. And because you also need that as the customer, you have probably over provisioned a little bit for safety's sake. So Thoras comes in and ensures that we maintain that resilience and that security and that safety, but also optimize the spend. And I've worked with a few vendors over the years that claim to do this, and Thoras are the only ones that have been able to pull it off. They're the only ones that I trusted from basically day one in knowing their technology inside and out. And then they provided a team of software engineers to work with my team to ensure that implementation and onboarding went fantastically.
So if there is somebody in your shoes, picture yourself a couple years ago, they are not on Sagetap yet. Is there any advice that you would give them?
I think you have to come at it from the angle of mutual value. If you come onto the platform from the perspective of like, I am here to learn about these vendors, and if there is some mutual opportunity, great. And if not, I'm going to do my very best to ensure that I provide them enough feedback and value that for the next person that might be a slightly better fit, they nail it first time, then everyone's happy.